Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight TV Edition. I am Peter, that is Tim. We are working our way through Tales From the Crypt, the horror anthology show. We are on Season 6, Tim, can you believe that? It is Episode 6 of Season 6. It is simply called The Bribe.
Ah, yes. Who could forget this gem?
Notably, it stars Terry O'Quinn. Obviously Locke from Lost is maybe his most known role these days, but you know, he popped up in...
I think more people probably know him from Silver Bullet, but...
I knew you were going to say that. I knew... Just know, Tim, right? Just know.
Okay.
Just know. We can move on now. Now this absurdity has been dealt with, we can move on to this. Also, Benicio del Toro was in it as well, in a smaller role. He's there. So Terry O'Quinn plays this father who's also like a fire inspector, and he's just been promoted to the chief fire inspector, and he doesn't like this club, this dancing strip club, and he comes around and he's like, hey, you manipulated and exploited my daughter, and now I'm in charge, I can get rid of you. And they try to buy him off, like, oh, the previous chief, we had a deal with him, we gave him X amount of money, he left us to ourselves, he got quite rich off of it, and he's like, well, I'm not him, so I'm not doing this. But of course, then he comes home and finds that his daughter, who, seems perfectly fit, like, she doesn't really fit what you expect. After the scene where he's at the strip club saying, oh, you had my daughter in here and doing all sorts of things, then you meet her and she's like, this is like totally not the character I was expecting. Yeah. But she like, her boyfriend's broken up with her because the college she goes to has cut the scholarships because they're trying to save money, and she's been kicked out. And this guy, that for some reason Terry O'Quinn thinks is perfect for his daughter, even though he clearly basically breaks up with her because, well, my parents look down on you if you're not in college, so I can't be with you. Why he wants his daughter to be with this asshole, I do not know. But he does. And it's like, well, now I need the money. So he ends up making a deal with the nightclub manager to take a bribe every month. And that's going to pay for her college. All wells ends well. He gives her a whole bracelet, but he also arranges a devious plot. He basically convinces a psychotic arsonist that he happens to know, presumably from past cases, to burn down the club, and it has very dark consequences. Let's just say that. I'll leave it there. We'll finish off the story once we've got into spoilers properly. Full spoilers for the episode in general, but. I'm desperate to ask the question, Tim.
Yeah.
After some weaker episodes, we had one good episode in the last about 20. So I'm curious, how do you feel about The Bribe?
I didn't really like it. It's a shame because I love our friend Terry, but even
his friend of the show, Terry
yeah, yeah, his friend of the show. But this one was just boring. It's kind of funny because it's like the last week was the one with the imaginary friend, right?
No, that was 2 ago.
2 ago? Oh, okay.
Last week was the blind remake of the movie story.
Well, I was thinking of the imaginary friend episode because I felt like this was the exact opposite of that one, where like that one was like. I didn't like that one, but it was because it was so like annoying, and this one I didn't like because it was so boring. Is like, I just didn't really care about like any of the characters or anything. It's not. I guess it's not as bad as compared to like the last couple of ones or whatever. But
yeah, it's not the worst thing ever. It does have like a ridiculously dark ending. I think it's funny because
it feels like they decided like. One twist isn't good enough for this episode. We need to have at least 2 or 3 twists on here.
Yeah, well, I feel like the second twist, because basically what happens is he gets the place burned down. He thinks it's empty in this night, because it's worth mentioning he goes out of his way to say, hey, do it in this night, there'll be no one there. He tries to not get anyone hurt. He just wants to ruin the place of business. But it turns out there was a private party going on. And you could argue that him finding the bracelet that he gave to his daughter, implying that his daughter's dead, is like, okay, that's comeuppance enough for the arson, right?
Yeah.
And even then, it seems a bit extreme. He actually did go out of his way to make sure no one was going to get hurt. So even then, I'm going to question that. But still, right, so the character we're following, who doesn't seem like a particularly awful guy, he's very naive and misguided.
Oh, sure.
But he's not necessarily the worst of the worst. And obviously makes an awful choice, but again, he does try to make sure no one actually gets hurt. People get hurt, people die. He thinks his daughter's dead. So we then have the darkest shit ending where he goes home and shoots himself in the head. And then we double the twist and find out, and I actually guessed this, I bet his daughter wasn't even there. She was, but she didn't die. She left before the fire, and sure enough, she's eloped with Benicio del Toro, who was the head bouncer at the club. And that's the joke at the end, is that they're married, and she phones her dad. The answering machine picks it up just after he shot himself. Hey Dad, I've eloped. I know you're mad at me. Blah 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 blah. And we see her all happy. My only real critique of this double twist here, because I think it works well enough in the sense that it doesn't bother me, I guess is what I'm saying. But the part that I think doesn't work specifically is when she says, "Oh, I think I've lost my bracelet. Have you seen it?" It's like, he's like, "Oh no, I haven't seen any bracelet." It's like, it's not important. And I'm like, why are you making a point of her being kind of mean about the fact? Because he gave her this bracelet that belonged to her mother. Presumably the wife died a number of years ago, right? It didn't feel like they split up. It felt like she died, and it was this meaningful thing. And I'm not sure, because up until this point she seems like a nice enough daughter. And then this one final line is like, I don't really like it, doesn't matter, it's not important. It's like, well, I don't know.
You know what feels weird about this episode is it's not like it was hard to follow, but it does feel like you are just kind of dropped into the middle of something. Like a lot of stuff just pops up that you're like, oh, I guess like, you know, kind of like you were saying, like he goes into that strip club and then like all of a sudden he's like, you manipulate my daughter and getting her to like work here or whatever, and you're like, okay, where'd this come from? And then when you see the daughter, it's like, oh yeah, like she doesn't really seem that way at all. And then like at the end, her eloping is just like, oh, I guess she liked this guy now.
I mean, maybe the twist was supposed to be that she was this kind of like different person that he didn't know, right? But I don't think they actually do enough to sell that across. And then alternatively, if the point of the story is that he tries to, like, you know, not force, he's very like sweet about how he does it, but if the point of the story is that he's trying to push her into marrying this guy she doesn't want, and the whole point is the moral here is that by pushing his daughter into something because he wants it, it pushes her away to eloping. And like, if that's the point as well, I feel like it doesn't go far enough to actually make that point. I can see it almost being there if they wanted to go down that path of no, because he's forcing this on her, he's pushing her away, and that's why she elopes at the end, and that's why, you know, he ends up killing himself. But the funny thing is that moral is completely set. You could have that moral without the fire and without any of the other stuff. It could literally just be he pushes her into this marriage, instead she elopes, and that's the story. Instead we have he also tries to burn down this building.
And it's weird though too, because like he's not really like a super like good guy, but he's not really like a bad guy either. So not really sure exactly like how to feel about him. Like a lot of times in Tales from the Crypt, someone's like either cartoonishly evil or like, you know, a super
a good person.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it just made it for like a very boring character where you're just like, I don't know, kind of, I like this actor, but I don't really care about this character.
It was muddled because, okay, it seems like he's doing a nice thing for his daughter, but he's been kind of forceful. It seems like he's noble because he doesn't want to take the bribe, but then once he takes the bribe, he wants to burn down the building, which is going over a line, and he convinces like this random arsonist to do, because he goes to this guy and it's like, oh, well, who is this guy exactly? And it basically it's just throughout the scene you kind of get that, oh, okay, this is a guy who loves to burn things down, and that's why he knows him.
Yeah, which I would say would probably be the most entertaining part for me, just because this guy was such a, you know, crazy over the top character that I was like, all right, at least we're getting something kind of interesting now. But
yeah, I wouldn't say this is a terrible episode. I think it's just a really bland in the middle episode.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, we've definitely had worse. I mean, Whirlpool was worse.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And
you know,
and again, I was trying to think of like what I don't like more, like something like this where it's boring, or again going back to that imaginary friend episode where it's like something like this where it's annoying, but I guess at least it's like kind of goofier and zanier. I'm not sure.
I don't think it matters, because I think typically when we're talking about movies and TV and we're saying, you know, you can be good, of course, and great or whatever. You can be really bad, and you can be really mundane and in the middle. And often I'll say I would rather watch something that's really bad because it might be funny how bad it is. Because stuff that's in the middle is a bit more frustrating because it's just kind of like, it's kind of doing things okay, but it's not really that captivating. You're kind of bored. I think what you just described there, though, is that they're both annoying. One just happens to be zanier, but not necessarily funny because it wasn't necessarily making you laugh. It just, sure, in concept it was zanier, but were you actually smelling at the zanier elements?
Oh, God, no.
so I think ultimately what you described is, no, they're just kind of the same. The topics are just different, but the actual quality level is pretty similar, I'd say.
It's two sides of the same coin, I guess.
Maybe. I'm not sure I agree that the opposite of annoying is boring. I feel like the opposite of each has to be a positive thing. Opposite of boring is captivating.
Maybe.
The opposite of annoying is pleasing.
I would say it's they're two concepts. I guess that neither one I like, but it's just I don't know. To me, there's like
Tim. I think most people would agree that they don't like annoying or boring. They're things that typically most people are not fans of.
I don't know. I always thought that was my little quirk. But but if someone else agrees with that, let me know. But yeah, whatever. It's a coin.
Tim, you're trying so hard for this metaphor.
What do you, I mean? If you look at like an actual coin, do you think
analogy,
like George Washington's head, the opposite of that is a building? Like coins themselves don't make sense.
They're not supposed to be the opposites, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're the one that's trying to get this opposite thing going on.
Earlier on, you said the exact sentence. This was the opposite of the last one. That was annoying. This one was boring. You said that.
I'll have to rewind the tape on that.
I may actually just like cut to that. I may just put it back into this bit and just cut back to you saying it 10 times just to really get it across that you said that.
Oh, fool me once, I suppose.
If I remember to do that, that is. See, I want to do it now, but I'm worried I'm going to forget before I edit this.
Hey, more work for you. I'm all for that. You gotta earn your keep. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about this. Again, like you said, it's pretty bland. It's in the middle. It's
the worst. It's the hardest one kind of episode to get passionate about in either direction. Because at least with some of the really terrible ones, where like, oh, I want to tear it to shreds. I want to burn it to the ground. I want to, just like he did with the nightclub. You want to burn it to the ground. But no, with this, it's just kind of like, it's
Yeah, it's also just so weird at the end. Like, doesn't the daughter say something like, "Oh, like I'll come visit them in a couple of months or anything and see if everything's okay," or like something weird like that. Then I was like,
yeah, I almost feel like if you're going to go down this path, maybe actually having the scene of her coming back and finding out that her dad shot himself.
Yeah, I feel like that'd make more sense if like, he does it and then they burst through the door and she's like, Dad, don't be mad at me, but guess what? We eloped. Like, like I don't know. Like you kind of get the sense that they probably have kind of a good relationship, or at least somewhat close, or at least he feels that way, to the point where it's like you'd think she would not just leave his life for an indeterminate amount of time out of nowhere.
Muddy characters. It's not really clear. It's not like it's shades of grey either, where they're complex and there's different sides to them. It's just muddy. It's not clearly defined who the characters really are. And Benicio del Toro's character is just a nothing. He's just there. He's just around, and then all of a sudden, he's the boyfriend at the end. Like, so. Rough episode. Not the worst, but definitely not particularly good either. So that is The Bribe. Let us know what you thought of this one if you've seen it in the comments. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. You can do that over there, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching Scary TV, and we will see you next time.